Hiya guys and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing the bleakest endings in horror movies and we've got 5 picks for you.
Okay, I'm going to kick it off. My first pick is a classic. I say it's a classic. It's 20 years old. It's Jeepers Creepers. And if you've seen this film, obviously, we forgot to mention, there's spoilers in this video because it's bleak endings, obviously. But yes, Jeepers Creepers came out 2001. I don't want to say who directed it. I usually like to say the director, but he's a pig. Don't want to say it. Google it.
Enough said.
It's about a monster who can eat for 23 days. Eats for 23 days every 23 years. And he's he's like a bat creature. And he attacks this brother and sister. And at the end, he attacks the sort of police station very much like Terminator 1 style. Where he wipes out every cop. It's a great scene. Now, some people don't like the ending. They don't like to see him as a monster. But I love it. I don't care. And just at the end, he's got Derry by the throat and his jowls open up like predators. A brilliant scene. And he just flies off with the brother. And in your mind, you think, oh, maybe she's going to go rescue him. But it turns out that is the end. The creeper just eats the kid's eyes and skin and is horrendous. And it's one of the bleakest endings you can imagine. And very, very surprising. Yeah,
definitely. Do you know, I remember it coming out. I was very young and I loved it. But for some reason, I didn't watch it for years and years. And then I rewatched it not that long ago, actually. First time in a long time. And oh my God, it's aged so well. It's such a good film. One of the most iconic monsters. Massive shame about the director, though.
Yeah.
But I'd love it to be put in someone else's hands now with a big budget of a big studio. I think they can do great things with it. I think it's been very mismanaged since the second film. Anything past the second one is not worth watching. But yes, definitely a bleak ending.
Yeah.
My first pick, I've got David Cronenberg's The Fly, one of the best horror movies of all time. Horror sci-fi, call it what you want, is definitely horrific. And it's about a guy named Seth, played by I've forgotten his name. Jeff Goldblum. And Gina Davis. And basically he's a scientist and he's created these teleportation pods. And he's obsessed with getting these things going, and he decides to test it on himself, and a fly gets into it with him, and he crosses DNA with a fly. And what makes this ending even more bleak and horrific is that it starts off like a superhero film.
Yeah.
And he's got super strength, and his body's in great shape.
Climbing on walls.
He's climbing on walls, he's doing gymnastics in the flat. And once it starts going downhill, he starts to turn into the villain. And I think that's what makes the ending so bleak. It basically comes to the point where he's got to go because he's become a complete monster. It's got one of the best body transformation scenes of all time. I think it is unmatched. But the finale ends up where he's the villain. And we love this guy. We followed him throughout the whole film. And he's become this horrific monster. And Gina Davis has this massive fight with him in his lab.
Yeah.
But the reason why this ending is so bleak is because of how much we like this character. And it ends, there's no hope for him whatsoever. He turns into this disgusting monster. And the worst scene ever when he puts the shotgun to his head and he's just looking at her with his fly face, just like, kill me, put me out of my misery.
He's got no humanity left, is he?
Well, that's the thing. There is that's what's more upsetting about it, is that there's a little bit of humanity left in there with him, where he's like, I'm not a complete monster, so I need to be killed, because he's still got that feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of the best transformations ever, and definitely one of the bleakest endings.
It's pretty bleak, but it's not as bleak as my next pick. And it's Frank Darabont's The Mist, based on Stephen King's novella. If you've seen this movie, obviously, hopefully you've seen it if you're watching this video, because it's a spoiler. You got this mist that comes over this town, and these monsters, these sort of prehistoric bugs and creatures come out, killing everybody and spreading like wildfire. And right at the end, the main characters, the father's played by Tom Jane, and he's got a couple of passengers. I can't remember their names now. And he's got a son next to him. The wife is dead. So they're in the car. There's no hope. The mist is all around. There's monsters everywhere. So the father decides to put everyone out of their misery, put him out of his misery, his son out of his misery. And he has to shoot his son, obviously, first, because he can't trust his son to shoot him. Kills everybody, kills the son. And then he's just devastated, ready to kill himself. And then the mist starts clearing and the soldiers have kind of like wiped it all out. And he's just done this horrific thing. It is horrifying. It's got to be up there with the most bleak, frustrating endings, because you do understand his motivation. He's not just like, oh, why would he do this? Like, I don't know. It's not a life, where these monsters could eat you.
Oh, definitely. I think it's a place anybody could be driven to.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely one of the worst endings. I know that ending has changed from the books, and Stephen King's actually a fan of the movie ending. And
what happens in the book, the end? I haven't read it.
I have read it a long time ago. I can't remember the ending, but it is different.
Yeah.
Nowhere near as bleak. But Stephen King was actually like, why didn't I come up with that? Yeah, great ending. One of the endings everyone always goes back to.
Yes, 100%.
So my next pick, I've got Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And this is a remake, I think, 1978 this one came out. It's the one with Donald Sutherland in there.
Jeff Goldblum.
Another Jeff Goldblum film, Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
Veronica Cartwright. It's got a hell of a great cast, this one
amazing.
has. And again, this is... Somehow, sci-fi movies are perfect for remakes. There's not many sci-fi movies that have bad remakes. I think all the best remakes out there are sci-fi.
Yeah.
And for me, this is the definitive Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This is the most iconic one. And it's basically about, imagine The Thing, but on a bigger scale. You've got these alien pods that come down to Earth, and they're slowly taking over humanity. You don't know they've been taken over other than they're emotionless. And you got a group of scientists who realise what's going on, and they try to rise up against these aliens, this invasion. And it takes us towards the end, and it is one of the bleakest endings because they've kind of figured out how to blend in with these aliens, and they've just got to act motionless, right? And we end up with Matthew and Nancy at the end of the movie, but they get separated. And then we're following Matthew, who's played by Donald Sutherland, and it seems like he's mastered it. It seems like he's mastered their way of life, and he's walking about them in their offices, emotionless, just going about his day. And you think, oh, great, there's a way now, there's a way out of this, we can get that nice ending, they can kind of go on with their lives. Not a great life by any means, but it's something.
Yeah.
And then you get that great scene where Matthew is walking down by those trees, and then you hear Nancy shouting, Matthew. And then he turns round and she's all happy. Yeah. They've connected, and then he does that scream.
Yes.
When he lifts his arm up and screams, and he's one of them.
Yes.
And then the movie ends. It fades to black. The camera goes through his mouth, and that's it. It ends.
It's grim as fuck.
And this movie ends, and there's no going back. That's it. Yeah. Life has been taken over, because it's a scary thought. I think it is one of the scariest things, because if you watch a movie where people go on holidays and then they're not welcome, kind of like Hostel, where everyone's a bit off, that's terrifying in itself. But imagine going up against something from another planet that's just taking over everything. Yeah. And that's why this ending was so perfect, because of how terrifying that would be, like a full-on invasion.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. Right. We've got 5 picks. Now, there's obviously 2 of us, so we've decided to share the last pick. Because we both agree this is the grimmest ending ever. Yeah. And also we watched this at the same time. We experienced it at the same time. And that's quite rare for us. We're different ages, so we watched things at different times. But this is 2022's Speak No Evil. Now it's perfect because they've just remade it with James McAvoy. And this is the Danish version. And we watched it together. We both loved it all the way through. And then, do you want to tell him what happens in the end?
Yeah, of course. And do you know what's great? We actually get to talk about this ending, because every time we've spoke about Speak No Evil, we've kind of been hush-hush about the ending. But yes, well, the basis of the story, firstly, is two couples meet on holidays. They get back home, and one couple gets invited into the where's the Danish one set, to their Danish home or something. They get invited back to their home.
I don't know. Yeah,
I'm thinking of the English plot now.
Yeah.
But anyway, they meet up, and one of the couples have got sinister plots against them. But yeah, you've got the couple and their child. They start realizing that something is off with this family, and they try to escape. And it is one of the most bleakest endings ever, because you think there might be hope, because it didn't seem like that type of film.
Yeah.
And because there's kids in it as well, it's like there's no way any harm's going to come to the kids. But we come to the finale of the movie, the couple and their kid who get taken by the other couple. I'm butchering this because I can't remember their names, the Danish names.
Can I just say one thing before we say exactly what happens? You and I were both watching it, and we both turned to each other and said, this film is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And then once that ending happened, we both went, oh, this is too much, isn't it?
Yeah. It was a 5-star movie up until the end. But... yeah, they're basically part of, let's say, a syndicate who traffic kids, and they chop the children's tongues out so they can't speak to anyone, and obviously they can't really give up who they are. And it ends up, you've got this lovely couple who end up in this shit place. You feel for them all the way through the film, and you're thinking there's got to be a way out of this, and they're just human, they can get out of it. But no, they end up in the back of their car, and we see their child's tongue clipped out. And what's more horrific about that is that I understand there's a state of fright, but they just kind of shut down and accept it. The kid gets taken away from them and dragged away. There's loads of people outside the car.
Yeah.
And there's just no hope at that point. Whatever happens now is pointless
at all. And they get and then they get stoned to death. Now, that's the worst part. I'd understand if the child was murdered in front of them and they thought, kill us, we don't want to live anymore. But the child had their tongue cut off and it was taken. Now, if they're willing to just get stoned to death, why not fight until the death to try and get the kid back? It didn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was
like
nonsense.
I understand it, like the realism of it. Like your body may actually shut down if you see something that horrific against someone you love. Obviously, relating being a parent, you probably would shut down a bit, but then your fight or flight has got to kick in. Yes. And I just wanted them to give everything they had to save that child, but then it's just given up. Their child is still alive. It's going to be trafficked and sent somewhere.
Yeah, horrified.
And they just kind of give up. And then they're stripped naked and they're put down this quarry and they just get stoned to death.
Yeah, and it's so bleak.
It's my least favourite ending of all time, and that's because of how much I love the film. Now, if the whole film was like that and I didn't enjoy it, I would have thought, it doesn't really matter. But you like these characters, you wanted them to get out, and the film did such a good job of making you feel for them.
Yeah, and even if like they fought to the end and still died, and it was off, at least they fought, but this was just like, they threw in the towel really easily. They didn't have a gun to their head. They were just kind of threatened, weren't they?
Oh, yeah. It's the most frustrating ending of all time. That one hit me for a good week.
Yeah, I know.
Pissed off more than anything.
That's what's great about the remake, and that's why I think the remake exists, because it's a foreign movie. And obviously, if they were both American movies, it would be too soon to remake it. Because it's a foreign, they thought, do you know what? We can jump on this straight away and change that ending. And they did. I'm not going to say the ending of the new one, but it is so much better. It is far superior. And you should check that out instead, isn't it?
Instant 5 stars. I love that. And it is, at the moment, my favourite horror movie, or movie of 2024.
Could be mine, yeah. Yeah.
My top 10 movies are usually all horrors anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Right, guys, if you enjoy horror reviews, rankings, please subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.